guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Adrina and I upload beauty related content. I'm going to show you how I achieved this look that I'm wearing right now. If you'd like to see how I got this youthful makeup look, keep watching. So for starters, you want to make sure that your skin is well prepped. Now, this isn't really a skincare video or tutorial. This is more on along the lines of what you can do with your makeup to help achieve a youthful look. Whatever skincare regimen that you follow, just always make sure that you are exfoliated. It doesn't really matter what product that you use to exfoliate. If you have a cleanser and you have a washcloth, you can use a damp washcloth and whatever cleanser you're using to wash your face and just rub it gently over your skin as you're cleansing, and that should help with the exfoliation. You don't want any dead skin cells or any peeling or dryness or flakiness, whether or not you have dry skin or not. You want to be able to remove that layer of that before you go in with your moisturizer. If you are a oily girl, make sure you're applying your mattifying moisturizer. If you are a dry to normal, whatever your skin type is, know what moisturizer you need for yourself and apply it. So today I have already exfoliated and I applied my moisturizer. So this is my moisturizer that I use, the L'Oreal Hydra Genius. This is for normal to dry skin because that's what I have. I am 30 years old. I realize that is not very old, but I have started to see changes in my skin as I've been getting older. So as you can tell, I have freckles, I have discoloration, I have darkness under my eyes, age spots coming in across along my forehead and across my cheeks. I have very sensitive skin. I do have scarring from breakouts. So I have a lot of things going on. And you know, when I'm trying to achieve a youthful look, I always start with my brows. So I'm going to be using the Brow Stylist by L'Oreal. Just flicking my brows upward. And I'm going to lightly fill them in with the pencil side. So you can see I just lined the bottom following my natural brow, lined the top, and then filled in any sparse areas that I do have within my brows. Next, I'm going to be filling in my brows with some brow powder. I just use brown eyeshadow for this. If you are 30 and up, you most likely overplucked during the 90s and early 2000s. That was very in, having super thin brows. But thicker, fuller brows actually give you more of a younger appearance. So if you do have that problem, I understand. If you need to create some brows for yourself, I have been working really hard at growing mine back since then, and they're almost back to the way they were. Next, I'm going to clean up under the brow with a cream shader brush and a concealer. I'm going to take the same concealer and apply it all over the lid. And I'm going to set that with the pressed powder. So for eyeshadow, I am going in with these three colors from an NYC palette. This palette is called Long Beach Sands. Actually, the two bottom are matte. The top has a slight sheen. And I'm going to take the brown shade and I'm going to place it on the outer part of my eye. Now, because I have hooded eyes naturally, the older I get, the more that is accentuated. So I want that to be not as noticeable, and so that is where I'm going to apply the darker color to kind of hide the sagginess. I want to make it look like the outer lid is receding. I'm going to add it slowly buffing it on the outer portion of my lid. Now, because my eyes are hooded, I'm going to be bringing the shadow up higher than my actual crease. Kind of creating the illusion of a deeper crease, which I don't have. Adding the shimmery shade with the same brush right here, right where the brown ends, and just flicking it inward. Now I'm going to use the lightest shade, only bringing it halfways, kind of because I had the darkest color, the medium color in the middle, and then bring the lighter color towards the center. The lighter the color that you choose to put towards your inner corner is going to depend on how big your eyes will look. If you want your eyes to look way bigger, pop, you can use an even lighter color. Now I'm going to just use a pressed powder. This one is by Wet n Wild, to buff out where the brown ends. The lightest color that you took in the inner part of the eye, you can add a little bit of that to the very top right underneath the arch, just to highlight and give a more lifted appearance. Now I only take it right under the arch. I don't drag it down because that'll just accentuate what I was just trying to cover up, my hooded eyes. You don't want it to look drooped. You want it to just look lifted, like in that area. After you finish applying the eyeshadow, you're going to take the brush that you used to buff the darkest color on the outer corner, but with no extra product, and you're just going to flick outwards. That way you're diffusing this line and it's not like a C shape. When you have hooded eyes, and by the way, if you don't have hooded eyes, you don't have to follow each of these steps. You can do what you normally do for your eye shape, but with mine and the hooded eye kind of makes me look older, I feel. I like to diffuse that, so I'm flicking outward just so I don't have a round shape, and this really helps with the lifted appearance as well. So it's more of a swooped back look. Okay, so off camera I went ahead and I applied these lashes. These are the Kiss lashes in the style Pompadour. As you can see, they go from short to long. I like that style best. That suits my eye shape because I have almond eye shapes. Do whatever you like. I did clip them. I trimmed them a little bit shorter from the inner corner. I just find that if I use the full lash, how it comes already, it tends to look more like this, and it closes the inner corner. But if I move it out to have it start from where I have them start right now, it kind of curves down and it droops the eye, which is everything that I'm trying to do the opposite of right now. Moving on to the face, I'm going in with primer first, and use a primer that is suitable for your skin. I'm going in with the e.l.f. Putty Primer, the poreless one. You can also layer primers. So like this, I'm going to put on the majority of my face, but on my nose and where I am getting fine lines or where I have more wrinkles, I am going to be applying a different primer. You'll see right now. But not everybody's face is the same all over. Sometimes people are oily in their T-zone but dry all over the rest of their face. Sometimes they're dry in their T-zone and oily in other areas. Everyone is different, so don't expect just one product to work for you always. You can always mix and match. I'm going to go in with this L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Base. This one I find really smooths the look of pores. So I just get a little bit, and I'm going to put some right here because I have smile lines that are really bad when I have foundation on. They're really easy to see. And then around my nose. Just really pushing that product into the skin to make sure you're feeling those areas. When you apply product over top, they're less visible. So the next thing that I do is I apply a makeup setting spray before I go in with my foundation. I found that that helps my makeup last longer. So I'm using the e.l.f. Makeup Mist Set. Then I'm going to take a beauty sponge and the e.l.f. Camel CC Cream. One pump is enough for me. Remember, when you are applying foundation on mature skin, less is more. So if you have, you know, a lot of discoloration or a lot that you want to cover up, try going for a fuller coverage foundation and concealer, and then just using less product rather than getting a light to medium coverage and applying a lot, because it will show up cakey and you want to avoid that. I always apply to my cheeks first. That's where I have the most freckles and the most pigmentation that I want to cover. I go in with a light layer, and if I need to build up, I will, but with my foundation, all I'm looking to cover is my pigmentation, freckles, and age spots, or whatever you call it. I use my concealer to then cover up dark circles and blemishes. I also get a lot of redness, so that's what I use my foundation for. Also to color correct. I recommend applying your foundation with a beauty sponge because it will give you more control over the coverage. If you're applying too heavily and you're applying with a brush, it's going to be a lot harder to take that away. But if you apply too much with a beauty sponge, you can always bounce over it as much as you need to pick up any excess product. So that's why I like the beauty sponge. And with whatever's left over, I'm just kind of going over my T-zone, which is where I try to keep the least amount of my foundation, because that's where my foundation tends to break up, around my nose, in the center of my forehead, and my chin. So I'm going to leave less foundation there and add concealer there. After you've applied all of the foundation all over, wherever you need it, just take your time, bounce over everything, even though it's already blended into your skin. Just really take the time to beat it into your face. Just push, push, push all that product in. Now I am taking my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Eraser Multi-Use Concealer. This is in the shade 120 Light Pale. I'm going to use this to cover up blemishes. So like here I have scarring, freckles, I have a lot of moles on my face. Some of them are more prominent, so I don't cover them like these. But the other ones that are kind of like light, they can tend to look like, when I have foundation over it, look like scarring, which they're not. They're just freckles, but I don't want it to look like scarring, so I just cover them. And then any other little blemishes that I have going on. And then I'll take some on the edges of my nose, or the sides of my nose, I should say, underneath, on the sides of my mouth, small concealer brush and just tap everything in. Now I'm going to take my Instant Age Rewind in Brightener. This is a peachy concealer, and I'm going to use this to cancel out these dark under eyes. Okay, so now that it has definitely covered up the purple and blue tones underneath my eyes, it's still looking kind of funny because it's just boom, these like stark bright areas. So now I'm going to go over with my e.l.f. concealer. Okay, now I want to set everything with powders. Now, don't be afraid to use powders because as long as you're using them correctly and sparingly, you will not look dry and cakey, especially if you prepped your skin well and you've applied all the products necessary. So make sure your foundation is your skin type. If you need hydration, get a foundation that is hydrating, and same with concealer. So I'm going to use my contouring and highlight palette to actually set under my eyes. I like to use the peachy shade and the yellow shade, and I just combine them together onto my beauty sponge, like so. And I just tap and roll underneath. So like I set it down and roll. That's how I set my under eyes. So I'm pushing the product into my skin rather than just tapping it all on top and letting it sit there. I really like to get in there, make sure it's all going to stay in place, and I feel like this gives it a really smoothing appearance. I'm going to do that same thing for my T-zone, except I'm going to use this color. This is just more of a neutral in between both of those yellow and pink shades. So again, tap roll, just doing it quickly. Now that I have those places set, I'm going to go in with a powder brush and just set the outer perimeter of my face. I find that pressed powders just work best when it comes to less is more. I feel like when you use a loose powder, it's easy to pick up a lot, and then it gets everywhere, and then you can kind of see it all over the face. And I don't know, I just feel like a pressed powder does a better job at getting like this smooth, seamless look. Okay, so I have powdered all over the rest of my face. Now I'm going to go in with bronzer. I'm going to use this shade. These aren't labeled, by the way, but this is the Morphe 9C palette. It's just the palette I always use to bronze and contour. So I'm just going lightly. We already have a bunch of product on our face because this is a full coverage glam. I am not trying to look like I'm wearing all kinds of makeup. That's the trick. No matter how much you apply, you don't want to look like you've applied all of it. Little bronzer here. along the jaw. I'm just going to add slight contour. I don't want to do super cut look. I just want a little bit, and I'm going to be using this shade. Just a little bit on the very edge of my hairline, and then just take your bronzer brush and then just buff that together. And I'm going to go in with a highlight shade. This center one, which is already a nude color, so it's not going to be like a stark white or a pinky. It's just going to be like the same color as my skin, but it's going to have some shimmer. Now I want to place this in the areas that I want to be noticeable or stand out. So obviously not where I put my bronzer, not where I put my contour. I don't really want it right here because I've already used my eyeshadow as a way to be like a pulled back look. So I'm not trying to accentuate those areas. I just want to do a little bit right here, a bit on the bridge of my nose, and then some over my cupid's bow. Now I don't really contour my nose. I only add a little bit of the same shade that I used to bronze to the sides of my nose, because after I added all the light color in the center, it kind of makes my nose blend in, and I don't want that. I kind of want you to be able to see where my nose is at. It's kind of a way of defining it without bringing in any harsh lines or actually changing the shape. So I'm just adding a light application of the bronzer that I used. And I will also add shadow underneath my nose, because this nostril is actually bigger than this one. So like this one I'll add a little bit, and this one I'll add more onto this area to make it appear the same size. Another thing I do all the time, and I don't always do it on camera because I don't know, it's just like the last step that I do on my face usually. But now that I remember that I hardly ever record myself doing it, I wanted to show it because that's actually a tip that I use to look like you're wearing less makeup than you actually are. Is I take a brown shade, any brown shade that is dark, and I actually go over my moles or beauty marks, whatever you call them, to deepen them. So as you can see right now, it kind of comes off like a grayish or grayish color. So I just tap so it looks like it looks when I'm not wearing foundation. That's the whole point. I don't want to look like I'm wearing a ton. There. So now just looks like my moles instead of looking like, damn, she's wearing a lot of foundation. Really light and really pretty, the dark brown shade. A pencil brush to finish up the lower lash line. That is all I want to add to the lower lash line. Just a light dusting. I don't want to do anything too drastic. I still want it to look lifted. I am going to add mascara. I'm going to add some Wow Brow by a.r.c. After I have my entire face done, I will take this same brush, the fluffy brush that I used to apply setting powder to my entire face, and the same setting powder. I would just go into it and I'm going to just buff my entire face. Just buff it up. This is going to help blend everything together and look just effortless and like a filter, if you will. It just mends all of the product together, the foundation, the concealer, bronzer, blush, highlight, everything over top, and it just kind of like melts it together. This is another game changer. Like if I don't apply the setting spray beforehand and after, and then do this step whenever I skip this step, I notice the difference in the way my skin looks. Now I'm going to take a NYX lip liner in the shade Vanilla Sky. Now I'm going to take a NYX lip gloss, their butter gloss in the shade Madeline. As you get older, your lips tend to shrink and look a little less plump and dull, and so gloss is definitely a way to look like you have fuller lips. Almost forgot to highlight the inner corner. I'm gonna use this shade. And lastly, I'm going to top it off with the Hydrating Coconut Mist by e.r.c. That completes this look. I hope it was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any tips or tricks on a youthful looking makeup look, comment them down below. I would love to read them. I'm pretty sure other people would read them and find them helpful as well. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more beauty content from me, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you are not, so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you in my next video.